Lisa Martinez sat in the small waiting room and looked at the strange blue walls around her. The job posting had been weird, but the pay was amazing. Off-world security work for something called the Galactic Coalition. She needed money and adventure. Sounded good after months of boring desk jobs. The receptionist was not human. Lisa could tell that much. The woman had skin like purple glass and eyes that glowed soft white. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes. Your interview will begin soon, the receptionist said. Please remain calm during the process. Lisa nodded and checked her phone. No signal. Strange, but maybe they had some kind of security setup. She had worked military contracts before, so weird rules did not bother her. Door opened and a tall figure walked in. This being looked like it was made of clear crystal with light moving inside its body. It wore what looked like a uniform, but the material seemed to flow like water. I am High Evaluator Sci-Fi, the being said. Without moving what Lisa assumed was its mouth, the voice came from everywhere at once. You are Lisa Martinez, former United States Marines. That is me, Lisa said. She stood up and tried to shake hands, but the alien just looked at her extended hand. We have reviewed your military record, the alien continued. Your species is unknown to us, but your individual history shows promise. However, we must test your suitability for our organization. Lisa sat back down. Okay, what kind of test? The kind that will determine if humans can serve alongside the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Sci-Fi moved closer. Its crystal body made small ringing sounds as it walked. Your species appears physically weak compared to others. We have recruited. Lisa almost laughed. She had arm wrestled men twice her size, and her military training had pushed her beyond what most people thought possible. But she kept quiet and let the alien talk. Another being entered the room. This one looked like a giant insect walking upright. Its shell was black and red, and its compound eyes reflected the room lights multiple times. Lisa felt like she was looking at a very large ant that had learned to wear clothes. This is Commander Velna Scythe said. She designs our evaluation protocols. The insect being clicked its mandibles together. Your species has no significant military achievements against spacefaring civilizations. You have barely left your own planet. How can you hope to face threats that have conquered star systems? Lisa felt her temper rise a little, but controlled it. She had dealt with difficult superior officers before. Respect and confidence usually worked better than anger. We might be new to space travel, she said, but humans have survived pretty harsh conditions. On Earth, we adapt well to new situations. Velna made a sound like angry static. Your planet has no real predators left. Your people live in climate-controlled environments and eat processed food. What challenge could you possibly have faced? Lisa thought about basic training in the desert heat that made strong men pass out, water rationing that left everyone desperate, long marches with full packs while drill sergeants screamed at them. Then there were the real deployments, combat zones where any moment could be your last. We have our challenges, she said. Simplixus and Velna exchanged what looked like meaningful glances. Though with their alien features, Lisa could not be sure what they were thinking very well. Scythe said, you will undergo our standard evaluation. It typically lasts several days and tests physical endurance, mental stability, and tactical thinking. Most candidates do not complete all phases. What happens to the ones who do not complete it? Lisa asked. They require extensive medical treatment, Velna said with what sounded like satisfaction. Some never fully recover, but do not worry, the test is designed to find your breaking point without permanent damage. Lisa felt a small chill, but pushed it down. She had volunteered for dangerous assignments before. This could not be worse than some of the missions she had completed. When do we start? She asked. Now, Zithara gestured toward another door that had opened. A group of beings in white uniforms waited beyond. They looked like they might be medical staff, though their species was unclear. To Lisa, the evaluation begins with preparation. You will be given appropriate nutrition and rest before the trials commence. Lisa followed the medical team into a clean, white corridor. The walls seemed to glow with their own light, making everything look like a science fiction movie set. She passed other beings of species she could not identify. Some looked like walking plants, others appeared to be made of metal. Brought her to a comfortable room with a bed that looked normal enough. The bathroom had facilities that seemed designed for humanoid beings, though some of the controls were confusing. She managed to figure out the shower, and found that the water felt normal. A meal appeared on a small table. Food that looked and tasted mostly familiar, though some of it had unusual colors. The meat tasted like chicken but was purple. The vegetables were recognizable shapes but came in colors that did not exist on Earth. As she ate, Lisa wondered what she had gotten herself into. The aliens seemed to take this evaluation very seriously. Their comments about medical treatment and recovery time worried her a little, but she had faced scary situations before and come through them. After the meal, tiredness hit her like a wave. The bed was more comfortable than anything she had slept on in months. Clean sheets, soft pillows, and perfect temperature. She fell asleep quickly. Lisa dreamed about basic training and her first deployment overseas. In the dream, her drill sergeant had compound eyes like Commander Velna, and kept asking her why humans thought they were tough enough for space. She woke up several times during the night, but fell back asleep easily when morning came, or what she assumed was morning. Since there were no windows, Lisa felt rested and ready. A new set of clothes waited for her. The material felt strange, but fit well. The uniform was dark blue, with no markings she recognized. Breakfast appeared on the table. More strange colored food that tasted normal. She ate everything, figuring she would need energy for whatever came next. Ara appeared in the room. Without warning, the alien seemed to materialize out of the wall itself, though. Lisa realized there must have been a hidden door. "Are you prepared to begin?" the being asked. Lisa stood up and stretched. "I am ready. You should know that this evaluation has been attempted by representatives of 47 different species. Only 12 individuals have ever completed all phases. 3 of those required long-term psychological treatment afterward. Those are not great odds," Lisa said, but she smiled. "Do I get hazard pay if I finish CSF?" Ara tilted its head in what might have been confusion. "Humans have an unusual response to threat assessment. We have a saying," Lisa replied, "when life gives you lemons, make lemonade." "I do not understand this reference to citrus fruit." "It means we try to make the best of bad situations," Lisa said. "We shall see." Ara gestured to the door. "Your evaluation begins now." Lisa took a deep breath and followed the alien out of the room. She had no idea what waited for her, but running away had never been her style. Whatever these aliens thought would break her, she would prove them wrong. The corridor seemed longer this time, and more doors led off from it. She caught glimpses of other rooms through windows. Some contained what looked like training equipment, others had beings she could not identify, working on projects she could not understand. "This facility tests the best warriors from across the galaxy," Ara said as they walked. "Your performance will determine not only your own fate, but whether humans will be considered for recruitment in the future." "No pressure," Lisa muttered under her breath. They stopped at a heavy door marked with symbols Lisa could not read. Ara placed what looked like a hand on a panel, and the door slid open. Beyond was darkness. "Sir, evaluation begins on the other side of this threshold, Ara said. "Once you enter, you will not be able to leave until the process is complete. Are you certain you wish to proceed?" Looked into the darkness. She thought about her empty bank account and boring job prospects back on Earth. She thought about the adventure she had been craving for months. "I am certain," she said, and stepped into the dark. Lisa woke up in a bed that felt exactly like the one she had slept in the night before. The room looked the same: 2 white walls, soft lighting, and that same comfortable temperature. She sat up and rubbed her eyes, trying to remember walking through the dark doorway. Everything after that was blank. A voice came from somewhere in the walls. "Good morning, Candidate Martinez. Your evaluation has begun. Please remain in this room until further notice." Lisa looked around for speakers or cameras but could not see any. The voice had sounded like Ara, but she could not be sure. She got up and tried the door. It would not open well. "This is different," she said to herself. The bathroom still worked, and there was fresh water. She washed her face and tried to think about what kind of test this might be. Isolation, maybe they wanted to see how she handled being alone. Lisa almost laughed. She had grown up with 4 brothers and 2 sisters in a small house. Being alone was a luxury, not a punishment. Past Lisa did some stretches and push-ups. She had not exercised properly in days, so this felt good. She tried meditation techniques her therapist had taught her after her military service. The quiet room made it easy to focus on breathing and clearing her mind. Food appeared on the table. At regular intervals, simple meals that tasted good enough. Lisa ate everything and drank plenty of water. She had learned in the military to eat when food was available and rest when rest was possible by. What felt like evening, Lisa was actually enjoying herself. She had not had this much quiet time in months. Her civilian job had been noisy and stressful. Her apartment had thin walls and loud neighbors. Here she could think clearly for the first time in ages. She did yoga poses. She had learned from online videos. The room had enough space, and the floor was comfortable. She worked through stretches for her back and shoulders, areas that had been tight from stress and poor posture at her desk. Job day 2 felt similar. Lisa woke up, rested and calm. More food appeared, and she continued her routine of exercise, meditation and rest. She found herself thinking about her life and what she wanted to do next. The military had given her purpose, but civilian life felt empty most of the time. Maybe this space job would be different. Maybe working with aliens would be the challenge she needed. She started talking to herself just to hear a human voice. So they think isolation will break me, she said to the walls. I grew up sharing a bedroom with my sister. This is like a vacation on. Day 3, Lisa realized she felt better than she had in months. The stress from job hunting and money worries had melted away. Her body felt strong and flexible. From the exercise, her mind felt clear and focused. She actually thanked whoever was listening for the break from normal life. What she did not know was that 3 floors above her, high evaluator, Zythera, and Commander Velna were staring at monitoring equipment in complete confusion. Her stress indicators are at the lowest levels we have ever recorded, Velna said, clicking her mandibles nervously. This isolation protocol has driven warrior species to desperate acts of self-harm within 48. Harseth Ara studied the displays, showing Lisa doing what appeared to be some kind of ritualistic movement. The crystal being had seen thousands of candidates break down in this same room. Most started showing severe distress within hours, perhaps. Our equipment is malfunctioning, Zythera said. We ran full diagnostics twice. Velna replied, the readings are accurate. This human appears to be thriving in conditions that would destroy most trained soldiers. Maybe she is already insane, Zythara suggested. That could explain her unusual reactions. On the monitors, Lisa finished her stretching routine and lay down on the floor. She closed her eyes and seemed to fall asleep peacefully. Her brain activity shows normal sleep patterns, Velna said. Grudgingly, whatever else she might be, she does not appear to be mentally damaged. They watched for another day as Lisa continued what looked like a personal retreat. She exercised, ate regularly, and spent long periods sitting quietly with her eyes closed. Her vital signs remained steady and calm. This is impossible, Zythera said. We must proceed to the next phase. Are you certain? Velna asked. The fear projection protocol has caused permanent psychological damage in several previous subjects. We cannot evaluate her based on one test, Zythera replied. Activate the fear matrix. Lisa was doing push-ups when the room suddenly changed. The walls became transparent, and she could see outside. The view showed her hanging in space, high above a planet. Far below, she could see the surface spinning slowly. The room seemed to be falling toward the ground. Most beings would have panicked at the sight. Lisa stood up and walked to the wall. She pressed her hand against it and felt solid material. Nice special effects, she said. The planet looked beautiful from this angle. Blue and green with white clouds swirling across continents. She had always wanted to see Earth from space. This was probably not Earth, but it was still amazing. The view changed to show her inside a burning building. Fire surrounded the room, and smoke filled the air. Lisa could feel heat and smell burning wood. Her training kicked in automatically. She got low to the floor where the air would be cleaner, and looked for exits. The flames grew higher and the heat became intense. Lisa found herself checking for actual danger. She could not feel real heat from the flames, only the suggestion of it. The smoke did not make her eyes water, or her throat burn. Virtual reality, she decided, pretty good quality too. She stood up and walked right through the flames. They felt slightly warm but did not burn. This confirmed her theory. The aliens were trying to scare her with fancy special effects. Next came snakes, hundreds of them covering the floor and walls. Lisa had never been afraid of snakes. She had caught them as a kid, and some of her military training had included survival situations with dangerous animals. She knelt down and tried to touch one of the virtual snakes. Her hand passed through it, leaving small ripples like water. The snakes hissed and moved convincingly, but they were clearly not real. "Guys are good at this," she said to the walls, "but I have seen scarier things in actual combat zones." The room filled with spiders next. Giant ones the size of house cats. Lisa had to admit, these looked pretty realistic. She was not fond of spiders, but these were obviously fake, like everything else. She sat cross-legged in the middle of the room and watched them crawl around. The special effects budget must be huge. She observed. The spiders faded away, and the room returned to its normal white walls. In the monitoring station, Velna was making distressed clicking sounds. "This human shows no fear response at all to our most effective psychological triggers." Her heart rate actually decreased during the spider scenario. Zythera said, "How is this possible? Maybe humans evolved on a world so dangerous that our simulations seem mild by comparison." Velna suggested, "Or maybe she is the most mentally stable being we have ever encountered." Zythara replied, "Either way, we need to escalate the testing. What is the next phase? Physical endurance trials." Zythara said, "If we cannot break her mind, perhaps we can find the limits of her body." They began the next test while Lisa was eating lunch. The room temperature started dropping rapidly. Most species would begin showing distress as hypothermia set in. Lisa noticed a change and started doing jumping jacks to stay warm. "Cold weather training," she said cheerfully, "just like Alaska." The temperature kept dropping until most beings would have lost consciousness from exposure. Lisa put on the extra blankets from the bed and continued exercising. She had been through survival training in extreme cold. This felt similar but more comfortable since she had shelter and food. When the cold test failed to break her, they tried extreme heat. The room became like an oven. Lisa took off extra clothing and drank more water. She had trained in desert conditions and knew how to manage heat. "Stress Arizona summers were worse than this," she told the walls. "You need to try harder." They tried high-altitude simulation, reducing the oxygen in the room. Lisa noticed the thin air immediately and adjusted her breathing. She had hiked in mountains before and knew how to handle altitude. The monitoring equipment showed her body adapting to each stress with remarkable efficiency. Her vital signs remained stable, and her mental state seemed completely unaffected. "This is unprecedented." Zeth Ara said, "No candidate has ever responded this way to our standard protocols. Perhaps we are approaching this incorrectly." Vel Na suggested, "Maybe we need to understand how human psychology works before we can design effective tests." They watched Lisa finish her meal and begin what looked like another meditation session. She appeared completely at peace, surrounded by monitoring equipment that registered no significant stress. What kind of world produces beings like this? Zeth Era wondered. "Maybe we should ask her." Velna replied. Lisa opened her eyes and looked directly at what she had figured out was a hidden camera. "Thanks for the interesting experience so far," she said to the room. "I hope there is more, because this has been really relaxing." The aliens looked at each other with whatever passed for confusion in their species. They were supposed to be testing Lisa, but she seemed to be testing them instead. "Hi, Evaluator," Zythara called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. "Commander." Velna arrived with data tablets and a deeply troubled expression. A third being joined them, Dr. Kathleen, a tall willowy creature with silver skin and large, empathic eyes from the Vorthan species. The human continues to respond abnormally to all our standard protocols. Zith era began. We have never encountered a candidate who treats our most severe stress tests as recreational activities. Dar Kathleen reviewed the monitoring data with fascination. I have studied thousands of different species and their stress responses. This pattern is completely unique. Lisa Martinez appears to be getting healthier during the evaluation, not weaker perhaps. Our equipment is still malfunctioning, Velna suggested, though her clicking mandibles suggested. She did not believe this herself. We have run diagnostics 17 times, Dr. Kathleen replied. All systems are functioning perfectly. The human is genuinely thriving under conditions that would hospitalize most of our elite warriors. Meanwhile, Lisa was enjoying what she thought was a particularly creative phase of her job interview. The room had started spinning slowly, creating artificial gravity that pressed her against one wall. She recognized this as some kind of centrifuge test. Pressure built gradually until it felt like she was carrying twice her normal weight. Lisa had experienced high G-forces during military flight training. She found a comfortable position and controlled her breathing. The spinning sensation reminded her of carnival rides from childhood, when the pressure reached levels that should have made her pass out. Lisa started doing exercises she had learned in pilot training, how to tense her leg muscles and control her breathing to maintain consciousness. The aliens clearly wanted to see how much physical stress she could handle after an hour of high G. Testing. The room returned to normal. Lisa felt slightly dizzy but otherwise fine. She had definitely experienced worse during her military service. Not bad, she said to the room. Though military centrifuges are more intense, the temperature started changing rapidly, hot to cold, and back again every few minutes. Lisa recognized this as thermal shock testing. She had endured similar training in survival school. The key was not to fight the changes, but to let her body adapt naturally. She drank water during the hot phases and moved around during the cold phases. Her military training had taught her how to regulate body temperature through breathing and movement. The rapid changes were uncomfortable, but manageable. The oxygen levels in the room began fluctuating wildly. High oxygen that made her feel giddy, followed by thin air that made breathing difficult. Lisa had learned altitude adaptation techniques and breathing exercises that helped her cope with the changes. Is this supposed to simulate different planetary atmospheres? She asked the walls. Because it is pretty clever. Dr. Kathleen was studying Lisa bio readings with growing amazement. Her body is adapting to each stress faster than our equipment can measure. Most species would experience organ failure under these rapid environmental changes. She appears to have trained for these exact conditions. Velna observed. How is this possibly? Said Era made a sound like crystal chimes. Either humans evolved on a world with extremely variable conditions, or their military training is far more comprehensive than we assume. The next test involved sensory deprivation. The room became completely dark and silent, while devices canceled most sound and blocked electromagnetic signals. Lisa found herself in perfect darkness, with only the sound of her own breathing. Many species experienced panic or hallucinations when deprived of sensory input. Lisa had endured similar training during military SEER school. She knew how to handle isolation and darkness. She used the quiet time to organize her thoughts and plan her future. This is actually quite peaceful, she said, though she could not hear her own voice. She settled into meditation and found herself more relaxed than she had been in months. They tried sensory overload next. Bright flashing lights and loud chaotic sounds filled the room. Most beings would experience seizures or mental breakdown. Lisa recognized this as similar to battle conditions, with explosions and gunfire. She found a corner and took the position she had learned for surviving. Artillery bombardment, cover her ears, protect her eyes, and wait for the chaos to pass. The lights and sounds were intense, but they could not actually hurt her. When that failed, they tried sleep deprivation, keeping her awake with constant stimulation for what should have been several days. Lisa had learned to power nap during military training. She found ways to rest, even under the constant assault of lights and noise her brain activity shows. She is still getting restorative sleep somehow, Doctor. Kathleen reported this should be impossible under our disruption protocols. The aliens tried psychological manipulation. Next, the room filled with holographic images designed to create emotional distress, scenes of warfare, destruction, and suffering. From across the galaxy, Lisa watched with professional interest the special effects. Technology impressed her, but the content was less disturbing than some of the real situations she had experienced during her military deployment. She had learned to process traumatic imagery through therapy and training. You might want to add more realistic human conflicts, she suggested to the monitoring devices. If you want to affect human psychology, you need to understand human experience better. Dr. Kath. Leanne was frantically taking notes. Either this human has experienced more trauma than any being should survive, or humans process psychological stress in ways we do not understand. The testing team was running out of standard protocols. They activated stress tests designed for the most resilient species in the galaxy, physical challenges that had broken champions from a dozen warrior races. Lisa faced extreme acceleration that should have caused her internal organs to shift dangerously. She had learned G-force tolerance techniques and managed to stay conscious. She faced toxic gas simulations that should have caused respiratory failure. She held her breath and found air pockets. Temperature extremes that should have caused frostbite or heat stroke were manageable with techniques she had learned in survival training. Pressure changes that should have burst blood vessels were similar to deep-sea diving training she had completed. Each new test revealed that Lisa had somehow prepared for challenges the aliens thought would be unique. They could not find a stress that human military training had not covered in some form. This is impossible. Velna declared no species could have evolved natural resistance to this many different environmental hazards, lest they evolved on a world where all these hazards occurred naturally. Dr. Kathleen suggested. What kind of planet produces beings like the Sith era was studying Earth data. They had collected a world with extreme weather patterns, active geology, dangerous fauna, and frequent natural disasters, plus they apparently trained their military personnel to survive all of it. Lisa, meanwhile, was actually enjoying the variety of challenges. Each new test felt like a puzzle to solve. Using her training and experience, she started leaving detailed feedback about the testing procedures. You could improve the toxic gas simulation by adding more realistic respiratory irritation, she said during one break. The temperature extremes are good, but you need better humidity control for realism, and the pressure tests could benefit from more gradual changes. She was treating the most advanced stress testing facility in the galaxy like a training exercise that needed improvement. The aliens had no idea how to respond to this. In the monitoring station, the three evaluators stared at displays showing Lisa doing stretching exercises after completing what should have been a physically devastating endurance trial. We need to contact the High Council, Zithara said finally. This human has completed challenges that represent the absolute limits of what we thought possible for any biological being. Are we certain she is not artificially enhanced? Velna asked. Some species use cybernetic implants or genetic modification. All scans show completely natural biology, Dr. Kathleen replied. She is an unmodified baseline human. What we are seeing represents the natural capabilities of her species. The implications were staggering. If one average human could handle their most extreme testing, what could an elite human warrior accomplish? The aliens had assumed Earth was a peaceful backwater world. Now they realized they had completely misunderstood human civilization. We must proceed to the final phase, Zaythera decided. The final phase has only been used 3 times in our history. Velna protested. Every subject required intensive psychiatric treatment afterward. We cannot determine her limits through standard testing. We have no choice, Saysira replied. Activate the sanity fracture protocol. Dr. Kath. Lean made a sound of distress. That protocol was deemed too dangerous for routine use. These are not routine circumstances, Saysira said. This human may represent the most psychologically resilient being we have ever encountered. We must know the extent of her capabilities. They prepared the final test while Lisa completed what she thought was a pretty thorough job evaluation. She had no idea that the aliens were about to subject her to psychological pressures designed to shatter the minds of the galaxy's most experienced warriors. She was actually looking forward to whatever came next. The Sanity Fracture Protocol required authorization from the highest levels of Zephyrian Command. 3 admirals had to approve its activation. The test was so dangerous that using it required medical teams on standby and psychiatric specialists ready for emergency treatment. Lisa noticed that something different was happening when the room began changing more dramatically than before. The walls became transparent, showing what looked like the depths of space stars wheeled around her at impossible speeds, making her feel like she was falling through the universe. Most beings experienced immediate vertigo and panic from this display. Lisa had always enjoyed roller coasters and space movies. She found the visual effect beautiful, rather than terrifying. She lay back on the bed and watched the stars spin overhead. Pretty, she said to the monitoring devices. It is like being inside a planetarium. In the control center, Dr. Kathleen was monitoring Lisa's brain activity with growing amazement. The fear centers in her mind are completely inactive. She is experiencing wonder, not terror. The display changed to show Lisa standing on a platform surrounded by infinite darkness below her, stretched an abyss that seemed to go down forever. Most subjects experienced overwhelming fear of falling and existential dread. Lisa looked over the edge with curiosity. She had done bungee jumping before and rappelled down cliffs during military training. Heights did not particularly bother her, especially when she knew she was safe. Is this supposed to represent fear of death? She asked the room. Because I faced actual death in combat. This is much more comfortable. The psychological pressure increased. Reality began shifting around Lisa in ways designed to cause complete mental breakdown. She found herself in a maze of impossible geometry, where hallways led in directions that should not exist, and doors opened onto rooms that were larger on the inside than outside. Lisa had played puzzle video games with similar concepts. She approached the maze like a logic problem, testing different routes and mapping the impossible space in her mind. Instead of panic, she felt the satisfaction of solving a challenging puzzle. Clever design, she commented as she navigated through a room where the ceiling was also the floor. I like the way you made gravity work in multiple directions. The test escalated to reality distortion, where Lisa's perception of time and space became completely fluid. She experienced days passing in seconds and seconds stretching into hours. Her sense of self became fragmented as the simulation attacked her identity. Lisa had learned meditation techniques that included experiences of ego dissolution and temporal distortion. She had studied philosophy and psychology in college and understood that consciousness was more flexible than most people realized. This is like advanced meditation, she said during a moment when time seemed to stand still. I have read about monks who can alter their perception of time through mental discipline. Kathleen was frantically recording everything. The human is treating massive psychological assault as a learning experience. Her stress indicators remain at baseline levels. They activated the final component of the Sanity Fracture Protocol, temporal displacement technology, that made Lisa experience subjective years, while only minutes passed in real time. Most beings emerged from this experience with severe dissociation and memory problems. Lisa found herself living through what felt like decades of different lives. She was a farmer on an alien world, a spaceship pilot exploring distant galaxies, a scholar studying ancient ruins. Each life felt completely real and lasted what seemed like years. Instead of losing her sense of identity, Lisa treated the experience like the most immersive virtual reality game ever created. She enjoyed the different perspectives and learned from each simulated life. She organized her memories, carefully separating the real from the artificial. When the temporal effect ended, Lisa felt like she had just finished a very long and interesting dream. She remembered all the simulated experiences, but understood they were not real. She was still herself with her actual memories intact. That was amazing, she told the monitoring devices. It was like living multiple lifetimes. How does the technology work in The control room, 3 alien evaluators stared at readings that should have been impossible. Dr. Kathleen was the first to speak. Her psychological integration is perfect. She processed decades of artificial experience and maintained complete mental stability. I'm beginning to think we have misunderstood something fundamental about human psychology's ith era. Seda, young maintenance technician named Zix, had been watching the proceedings with growing fascination. Zix belonged to the same species as Zeth era, but was much smaller and worked on equipment rather than evaluation procedures. Maybe the problem is not with the human, Zix said quietly. Maybe the problem is with our understanding of what makes beings strong. The 3 senior aliens turned to look at the maintenance worker, who had dared to speak during their evaluation. Explain yourself. Valna commented. Zix, nervous but determined, continued. We design tests based on what we think would break us. But this human comes from a different kind of world. What if the things we consider torture are just normal Tuesday for humans? Dr. Kathleen was nodding slowly. That could explain everything. Earth appears to be a world with extreme environmental hazards, constant natural disasters, dangerous fauna, and frequent conflicts. If humans evolved under those conditions, our worst stresses might seem mild to them. Lisa, meanwhile, was doing yoga poses and thinking about her experience. She had found the testing challenging, but not overwhelming. Each phase had reminded her of training or experiences from her actual life. Her military service had included survival training, torture, resistance psychology, education, and extreme physical conditioning. Her civilian life had involved stressful jobs, difficult relationships, and financial problems. The alien tests were intense, but they were not worse than things she had already survived. She started composing what she thought might be a review of the testing program. It had been interesting and creative, but it needed some improvements to be really effective for humans. The testing center needs better food options, she said to the room. The accommodations are comfortable, but the psychological components need work. If you want to stress humans effectively, you need to understand human psychology better. She paused and considered her words carefully. Also, whoever designed this did a great job with the special effects. The virtual reality technology is incredible, and the physical challenges were well designed. I would give this experience 4 out of 5 stars. 4 out of 5 stars. Val Na repeated, in horror. She is rating the most advanced psychological torture facility in the galaxy. Like a recreational activity, I think we need to reconsider our entire approach to human evaluation. Zith era said. Dr. Kathleen was studying Lisa vital signs, which showed she was completely relaxed and preparing for sleep. Her brain activity indicates she is about to take a nap. How can someone sleep after experiencing the sanity fracture? Protocol, because to her it was not fracturing her sanity. Zix said it was just an interesting experience. She has probably survived worse things naturally. The implications were staggering if humans could treat their most extreme testing as a mild challenge. What kind of threats were humans capable of handling? The galaxy was filled with dangers that had defeated entire civilizations. Could humans be the species that could face those challenges? We need to speak with her directly. Zithira decided. The evaluation phase is over. We need to understand how human psychology actually works. But first they had to figure out how to tell Lisa that everything she had just experienced was supposed to be impossible psychological torture, not an interesting job interview. She was probably expecting them to discuss salary and benefits. Meanwhile, Lisa was settling down for what she hoped would be a good night's sleep. She was looking forward to the next phase of the evaluation process. Whatever these aliens had planned next, she was ready for it. She had no idea that she had just accomplished something that legendary warriors from across the galaxy had failed to achieve. She was just a human who had adapted to challenges the way humans always did, with determination, flexibility, and a sense of humor. The aliens were about to learn that they had found exactly what they were looking for, but not in the way they had expected. Lisa woke up to find High Evaluator Zith Era standing in her room. The alien looked different, somehow less imposing and more uncertain. The crystal being seemed to be having trouble deciding how to begin the conversation. "Good morning," Lisa said cheerfully. "I hope we can discuss the job details today. That was quite an evaluation." Processeth Ara made a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Lisa Martinez, we need to have a very serious conversation about what you have just experienced." Lisa sat up in bed and gave the alien her full attention. She could tell from Zythara's tone that something important was happening. "The evaluation you just completed is not what you think it was," Zythara began. "What you experienced was the most intensive psychological and physical torture protocol ever developed by any civilization in this galaxy." Lisa blinked and processed this information. "Torture," she said slowly. "But it was not that bad. I mean, it was challenging, but torture seems like a strong word. That is exactly the problem," Zythara continued. "The sanity fracture protocol has only been used 3 times before. Every previous subject required decades of psychiatric treatment. 2 of them never fully recovered their mental stability." Lisa thought about the past few days. The isolation had been relaxing. The environmental stresses had reminded her of military training. The psychological challenges had been interesting puzzles to solve. The virtual reality experiences had been educational and entertaining. "I guess humans might be tougher than you expected," she said. Commander Velna entered the room, followed by Dr. Kathleen. The insect being looked deeply disturbed, while the empathic Vorthan seemed fascinated. "We have been monitoring your responses to stimuli that should have killed you, Velna said bluntly. "Your heart rate actually decreased during our most severe stress tests." "How is this possible?" Lisa considered the question carefully. "Well, I grew up with 6 siblings in a small house, so the isolation was like a vacation. I had military training for extreme environments, so the physical challenges were familiar. And I have been through therapy for PTSD, so the psychological stuff was not as intense as some of my actual memories." Darkath Leanne stepped forward. "I have studied thousands of species across the galaxy and their responses to stress. What you have accomplished should be impossible for any biological organism. Maybe you guys just have not met humans before," Lisa suggested. "Earth has some pretty tough conditions. We adapt to survive. That is what we are beginning to understand," Zythara said. "Your species appears to have evolved under conditions that would be considered hellish by most galactic civilizations." Lisa laughed. "Is Earth really that bad compared to other worlds?" Dr. Kathleen consulted her data tablet. "Your planet has active plate tectonics, causing constant earthquakes and volcanic activity. Weather systems that produce devastating storms and temperature. Extremes predatory fauna that would terrify most species. And you have developed weapons capable of destroying your entire civilization. But you have also developed medicine, philosophy, art, and culture that rivals anything we have seen," Zythara added. "Your species combines incredible resilience with remarkable creativity." "So did I pass the evaluation?" Lisa asked. "You did not just pass it," Velna said with what sounded like amazement. "You completed challenges that represent the absolute limits of what we thought possible for any living being." Kathleen moved closer. "Your performance has forced us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about psychological resilience and stress adaptation." Young Zix entered the room, carrying what looked like official documents. The maintenance worker seemed excited and nervous to be included in such an important conversation. "I have been studying human culture and history," Zix said. "Your species has survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters that would have eliminated most civilizations, yet you keep developing and growing stronger." Lisa was starting to understand the full scope of what had happened. "You really thought those tests would break me," she said. "They should have," Zythara replied. "The fact that they did not suggests that humans may be the most psychologically resilient species in the galaxy. Well, that is flattering," Lisa said. "But what does it mean for the job?" "That is what we need to discuss," Velna said. "We are not just offering you a position in our peacekeeping force anymore." Axith Era gestured, and a holographic display appeared showing star maps and alien civilizations, we want to offer you something unprecedented. The position of Chief Human Liaison and Stress Management Consultant. Lisa studied the display. What would that involve, Dr.? Kathleen stepped forward. We want to learn how human psychology works, how you process stress, and adapt to challenges. Most galactic species evolved on relatively stable worlds. We never developed the coping mechanisms that humans take for granted. Our military training programs are based on species that have never faced real adversity. Zix added, we could revolutionize how we prepare beings for dangerous situations by studying human methods. Lisa felt excitement building. This was the kind of challenge she had been looking for. A chance to use her experience to help others and explore the galaxy at the same time. What would be my responsibilities? She asked. Teaching stress management techniques to other species, Zaithera replied. Developing training programs based on human methods, and serving as an advisor when we encounter situations that require extreme psychological resilience. Plus, you would get to travel across the galaxy and learn about different civilizations. Dr. Kathleen added, your insights could help us understand how to better prepare all species for the challenges of space exploration. The pay is excellent, Vel Na said, and the benefits include advanced medical care, educational opportunities, and a chance to be part of something larger than any single world. Lisa thought about her empty apartment back on Earth, her boring job prospects, and the debt she had been struggling with. This opportunity was beyond anything she had imagined when she answered that strange job posting. There is one more thing, Zaithara said. Your success here means that humans will be invited to join the Galactic Coalition. You would be the first of your species, but certainly not the last. So I would be representing all of humanity, Lisa said, feeling the weight of that responsibility only if you choose to accept. Zix said quickly, no one is forcing this on you. Lisa looked around the room at the alien beings who had gone from trying to break her mind to offering her the opportunity of a lifetime. She thought about everything she had learned and experienced over the past few days. Except, she said, without hesitations, 6 months later, Lisa was leading a mixed team of alien peacekeepers through what humans would consider a relaxing camping trip. The group included a Zephyrian Crystal being, 2 Vorthan empaths and a nervous Kitharan who kept asking about predators. Remember, Lisa called out as they hiked through a forest on the colony world of New Geneva. The key is to embrace discomfort instead of fighting it. Your bodies and minds are more adaptable than you think. Than aliens were discovering that human training methods worked remarkably well once they stopped thinking of challenges as torture and started seeing them as opportunities for growth. Lisa had revolutionized Galactic Coalition training programs by introducing concepts like voluntary stress, exposure, team building through shared hardship, and the radical idea that failing at something was a chance to learn rather than a reason for shame. Her first official report to the Galactic Council had been titled, Why Humans Sleep Better After Bad Days, and it had changed how dozens of species approached psychological wellness. She kept a photo from Earth in her new quarters aboard the Coalition flagship Stellar Harmony. It showed her family at a barbecue, everyone laughing and arguing and enjoying the chaos that had prepared her for anything the galaxy could throw at her. The postcard she had promised to send home was sitting on her desk. It read, found a great job with amazing benefits. Travel opportunities are literally out of this world. Tell Mom the meditation classes finally paid off. Love, Lisa. She had not sent it yet because she was too busy helping prepare the next group of human recruits who would be arriving next month. Apparently, her success had convinced dozens of other humans to apply for off-world positions. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you gave humans challenges that were actually challenging, and Lisa could not wait to see how that turned out.